everyone, it's Jelica here from aprettyfix.com and welcome back to my channel. Well, today I am sharing with you 5 dollar store Christmas craft projects. Today's video is actually in collaboration with 2 other YouTubers, Jane and Sonia from Sustain My Craft Habit and Kippy from Kippy at Home. We have all tackled the challenge of creating some really fabulous Christmas crafts using only dollar store items. And I'm going to leave a link in the description box to each of their channels below, so you'll want to check out all of their Christmas crafts as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm going to start off first with these really cute ornaments that I found at Dollarama, and as you can see, they can be pulled apart, so it did give me an idea. I thought I would pull them apart because it's a very glittery ornament, very messy, and so I'm going to start by removing the reindeer from the antler wreaths. And I'm going to be using the wreaths separately for a different DIY that I will be sharing with you at the very end of the video, so you'll want to stick around for that. But first, I'm going to use the reindeer themselves, and I'm going to just create some really simple Scandi-inspired reindeer ornaments. But as you can see, it's a very glittery project. And not only are the wreaths very glittery, but the reindeer themselves are really, really glittery and very, very messy. So what I decided to do was just scrape off, a lot of the excess glitter using a really stiff bristle brush. This is just a cleaning brush that I have on hand. So I simply brushed, and was determined to remove a lot of the excess that was just, as you can see, very, very messy, but just removing a lot of the excess glitter before I went on to the next step, which is spray painting. I simply used Rust-Oleum's flat matte spray paint. I really love Rust-Oleum. I think it does a fantastic job. For the reindeers, I just did like 1 coat on either side, and the wreaths themselves, I did a couple of different coats, and I will set those aside for the final project at the end. So I decided to turn these reindeer themselves into ornaments by attaching directly to their heads a wrapped wire. And it comes from the wire that had attached the reindeer to the wreath itself. So it really does go to show you, if you can save every little piece that you're pulling apart for your dollar store crafts, you just never really know what might come in handy. So I just grabbed a knitting needle. You can grab a pencil, anything you want, and just wrap the wire around it to create a nice loop. And once you slip it off, it's just the perfect size to slip in some jute twine or anything else that you want to use to hook your ornament. And here I am creating another one for my last ornament. Voila! Really, really easy to make. And next, what I did was simply attach each one to the top of the deer head using hot glue. And I would recommend that you use a really big dollop of hot glue just to make sure that it doesn't come off. And then once I've attached the third one, I am ready to hang it on my tree. I just used regular ornament hooks to hang them on my tree, but you can choose to use twine or ribbon. I just love the simplicity of this look. It's got this really cool Nordic Scandi vibe, and it was an easy dollar store upcycle. Now for my second dollar store craft, I decided to make an elf hat, and I don't know why, but I was exceptionally excited to create this really whimsical craft using felt, some pom-poms, and hot glue, of course. I wanted to make the elf hat specifically for this really cool glasses holder sculpture that I keep in my entryway. Now the great thing about the dollar store, I find, is that you can get a large bundle of felt and you can create multiple projects. So I had a lot of felt left over, so I'm just going to be using a portion of this green felt. So the first thing I did was to measure it out. I had already measured the circumference of the hat that I'm going to be creating for that wood sculpture, so I'm just marking this out. Now when I cut the hat, I'm going to cut on a slight curve rather than a straight triangle. This will just mean that I don't have to use as much of the felt to create the hat. So I'm saving a little bit of material. So once I cut one side, I simply folded it over and followed the edge of the first cut to then cut along the other side. So at this point, I just wanted to double check just to make sure that the circumference matched the circumference of my sculpture. And it doesn't hurt to have just a little bit of extra space left over. So to create this hat, I simply folded one side over, and then I grabbed the other side and made sure that the tips touched along the bottom, and it creates a bit of a triangular shape. Now it was time to hot glue those two sides together. Now once you've got the form of the hat, you'll see that there are those triangular bits still sticking out. So I simply cut those off. Now to create that really cute cuff along the bottom, simply grab some white felt, fold it over, and then glue the edges together to the thickness that you want. For some reason, I didn't capture it on film, but as you can see, it was really easy to do, and it was about 2 inches thick. Now I'm going to be attaching this to the hat itself. So what I do is make sure that the cuff itself hangs slightly lower than the edge of the hat. That way, any of the sort of jagged cuts are covered by this lovely cuff. Now once I reached the end, I simply decided to fold the edges of the cuff one over the other, and that way it has a little bit of a cleaner finish to it. And then the last thing I did here was just to close off that loop by gluing the two sides together. And now the final touches of our elf hat. I grabbed a pom-pom and a pipe cleaner. So what I did to glue the pom-pom to the top was I cut the tip off, and then I began to fold it inward just a little bit, just so I could create a surface area that the pom-pom could actually adhere to. So once I did that, I added loads of hot glue. I attached the pom-pom, and then with a little help of a marker, I just kind of pushed against the bottom end just so it could adhere to it easily. Now, depending on your personal preference, you can have the hat folded over or keep it straight. If you do want it folded over, a really easy tip for this is to grab a pipe cleaner, stick it all the way in, and then fold the hat with the pipe cleaner, and it'll actually keep its shape. I just think this is super, super cute. I love the way this turned out. It's the perfect whimsical touch that my little sculpture needed. Now this particular DIY is almost embarrassingly simple. It is so easy, yet I think it creates such impact. So I found these felt trees. They were already pre-cut in a package, and I grabbed 3 of the black ones and I decided to attach them together. I just grabbed some black string. You can use twine, you can use ribbon even, anything that you think would look really great with your decor. So I just did an overhand knot here, and then I created another overhand knot at the top and left about a 1.5 to 2 inch loop along the top because it's going to be hanging up. And then next I simply hot glued the string to the trees themselves. Now what I did was I just added about 2 inches of hot glue and then attached the string to the top end of each tree. My concern about gluing the entire string along the full length of the tree is that if I didn't glue it quite straight, the trees would hang crooked. So I just decided that I would just glue along the top end of the tree and let gravity simply pull the trees straight. I still can't get over how much impact these felt trees have, and it was the easiest craft by far that I've done this year for Christmas. Next up is this upcycled, very modern candle holder that I created using dowels and this cute but not quite my style candle holder. The dowels themselves are going to wrap around the candle holder. So I simply measured it to the height of the candle holder and made sure I had plenty of dowels, enough to be able to completely cover the candle holder itself. I measured them off, and using a miter saw, I simply cut each of the dowels to the desired length. Because these were kind of rough cuts, there were little splinters that still stuck out. I just grabbed a pair of scissors and cut them off, and that seemed to do the trick. And then I grabbed some sandpaper and sanded them down just to smooth it out a bit. Now the next bit is pretty repetitious, but basically you're just going to be grabbing the dowel and gluing it all the way around the candle holder. So I just added glue directly to the dowel and then attached it to the candle holder, held it for a few seconds, and voila. And then simply repeat by attaching one dowel at a time to the candle holder all the way around. Now it turned out that the candle holder top was slightly larger than the bottom, so I had to whittle away a little bit at my last dowel and then sand it down just to be able to wedge it in. But I was able to do that quite handily. I added the last bit of glue directly onto the candle holder, which enabled me to cover the entire candle holder. And then you can spray paint your candle holder whatever color you're using for your Christmas decor. For me, black made sense. And then the final steps is to add some sand in the candle holder, add a votive candle, and then it's ready for display. I really, really love the way this turned out. I think it just adds a touch of elegance to this tablescape, courtesy of the dollar store. And finally, my last dollar store Christmas craft involves that wreath ornament that we saw at the top of the video. I'm going to be spray painting all three of them in a green. I wasn't sure which one I was going to use. I started off with this darker one and I really liked the look of it, so I stuck to it. I spray painted all three of them, but I only ended up using one. I'm probably going to set those other two aside and maybe think of another craft that I can use them for next year. So if you haven't already guessed, I'm going to be framing this wreath, and this particular frame is also from the dollar store, so it's all very affordable. So after I removed the picture that comes with the frame, I just grabbed some of my own craft paper. You can grab any paper that you have on hand or something that you can pick up at the dollar store. I cut it to fit, placed it into the frame, and then reattached the back onto the frame. So I thought it would be really cute to attach the ornament to the frame itself by grabbing some ribbon, and I just happen to have ribbon on hand. I didn't really want to purchase more ribbon, but there are loads of ribbon that you can get at the dollar store, and so I just attached it to the wreath in a really simple way and then glued the ribbon to the back. Now here I am actually ripping it off from the spot that I had originally glued it to because the wreath wasn't quite as centered. So for my second attempt, I actually glued it directly to the frame instead of the back end. And that way I wouldn't be ripping parts of the frame off. Now I also glued one ribbon to the other, and that way I could then snip off that last little bit. So here are the final results of the framed ornament. I think it looks super cute. It works beautifully in my decor scheme, and it was easy to make. Well, I really hope that you enjoyed today's dollar store Christmas crafts. Don't forget to check out the other YouTubers who participated in the collaboration to see what they've come up with. And I've got more holiday craft and style videos coming up, so don't forget to subscribe. All right, see you guys all in the next video.
Adore him. Come, let us adore him.